Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we talk all things healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune into our minds in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. Today, I had the privilege to interview Prue Blennerhassett, who went from a degree in banking and finance to managing million-dollar accounts out of university. Prue now supports women to embody their truth and package their brilliant soul work in a way that offers them divine compensation while facilitating the greatest level of transformation for their clients. Prue invites women to own their worth and the value of their sacred work so they can stand in their power and sell their high-end, high-value offering and activate their financial ascension. I love that. The work she does is a mixture of strategy and energetic acuity, always inviting women to their next level of self-mastery in business and in life. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Energetically You. I'm here today with Prue Blennerhassett. She is in Sydney, Australia, and we connected, I'm pretty sure, first via Facebook, and I feel like we have a lot of synergies, and for that reason I wanted to invite her to talk all things women in business, abundant mindset, energy flow. She's sort of a master of all these things. So how are you today, Prue?
I'm really well, thank you, Megan. Yeah, thanks so much for that beautiful introduction. It's really lovely to be connecting with you. It's one of those fantastic things that I think about technology, even though it has many kind of faults. But one of the beautiful things is that we get to connect with like-minded, like-hearted people all over the world and have conversations that matter. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, it was my pleasure, and I totally agree with you. Like, I feel like one of the sort of benefits of, I want to phrase it that way, but one of the good things that has come out of the pandemic, and I feel like many women have sort of drilled down on the online space and found really amazing connections and new relationships. And I feel like I have met so many amazing women this last year online and surprisingly have felt like real connections with people. I think maybe 5 years ago, I would have doubted that I felt like true friendships with people that I just have been interacting with on social media or met via social media. So please introduce yourself. What is your zone of genius?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm an intuitive business strategist and a women's transformation catalyst. My business is called Women of Impact, and I support brilliant women to launch and scale their transformational soul work. So basically taking a really deep dive into who a woman is, the incredible gifts, talents, and abilities that she has to offer all of her energy, education, and experience, and bringing that forward in what it is that she is here to offer the world in her zone of divinity is what I like to call it. So, so that's kind of my magic and what I bring to the world.
I love that. I love how you describe it. I love how you describe it as soul work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey to get to this point?
Yeah, for sure. So I it's kind of like where to start, which length of the version of the story to tell. Okay, so I'll just pull on the important bits. I guess I grew up in quite a, typical middle class experience. I went to a private girls' school. A lot of my friends were very wealthy, even though we were kind of in the middle, income bracket as a family. And, my mum was an entrepreneur. My dad was away traveling quite a lot. And so there was, this kind of sense of mum being very independent, very headstrong. She's a Taurus. And, of really success being hard. Success being hard work. So, as a combination of kind of my familial growth experience, as well as the private girls' school I went to, where we were, in reflection, we were kind of trained to be mini prime ministers or mini presidents, that kind of really, upholding women in a beautiful way, like you can do anything, but also like you should do everything. Like it's a really important thing for you to step
way and do it, right?
Yeah, it was very, very masculine. So, I kind of, from that experience had absorbed, I guess, through osmosis, this kind of checklist is how I see it, that, in order to be happy, first I needed to get a degree. I needed to, find a good job. I needed to find a man. We needed to buy a house. We needed to have a baby, all those kinds of things. And then, could be happy and kind of considered successful and all of that kind of stuff. And I think through my upbringing, and, seeing some of my very wealthy friends not necessarily having very happy families or experiences, and also traveling a lot throughout, less well-off countries throughout Southeast Asia and things like that, and seeing people who had very little materially, but also appeared very fulfilled and very happy and very much at peace and content. So I kind of had this recognition that there was something amiss with the story that I had been receiving, or that I had been taking on through my life so far. So when I went to put in my preferences for university, I'd gotten home from being out the night before, and my friend that I was with said to me, "We've got to put our preferences in tomorrow. Have you done it?" And I was like, not yet. And so we were looking through this, this big book of all these different options, and, shortlisted down to the ones that felt really in alignment with me. And there were things like homeopathy, naturopathy, and there was also business banking, finance, and international trade. And it was you can kind of see, I can see in reflection then that I had kind of the spiritual leaning as well as the business kind of leaning. And it was the business banking, finance, international trade that I ended up studying. And that's what I have my bachelor's degree in. So that was all, very interesting for me, and probably the most fascinating part of that that degree was learning about the concept of microfinance, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's a concept of micro lending that was brought in by a man called Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh. And it was basically this system of micro lending and micro enterprise that he developed in the villages over there amongst small groups of women. And what he found was that when women were holding each other in this kind of space and in this circle of enterprise, but holding space for each other, supporting each other whenever anything came up, in this kind of community sense, that the repayment rates on these loans were something like 98%, which is unheard of in any other kind of lending structure or anything like that. So that was something that really, really struck me and stuck with me as well, and kind of has gone on to also, in hindsight, be, very kind of indicative of the direction that I was moving in. So I'll snapshot the rest of the story in that I went into working for a small business, very masculine kind of experience in my hometown in Melbourne. And I worked with them for about 7 years and had to very much prove my worth. And, you know, I had to kind of fight for every wage rise, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it was in the personal care industry. And I got to the point where I was thinking to myself, I can't see how it matters to the world whether or not I deliver this next lot of eyeliner on time. You know what I mean? It was like this existential questioning going like, how is this, where is the meaning in what I'm doing? Like searching for meaning. And, you know, I was at the point as well where I was working so hard, like I was working nights and weekends, you know, I was following that criteria for success, needing to be hard work. And because I was working so hard, I was letting off steam on the weekends, you know, partying with my friends. And really there was no time, no space for me. So I was totally disconnected from myself and from my emotions, from who I was, from my femininity. And a couple of friends of mine said to me, oh, we're going to move up to Byron Bay at the end of this year. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that might be something that I could do. And it's like this seed got planted. And, you know, also in hindsight, obviously one of those destined things, because one thing just led to the other. And within a few months, I had moved as well. So that was about 10 or 11 years ago. And then my journey from there to here has been all about, I moved up with the consideration of who is it that I want to be and what is it that I really want to do in this world. I didn't know the answers, but that was my questioning. Like that was my exploration, my invitation to myself. And I started my first business because I ran out of the savings that I thought I had so diligently saved for my relocation. I thought it'd last me 6 months, and about a month and a half in, I was like, oh, this is draining out quicker than I thought. So I put together a cover letter and, you know, a kind of description of all of the things that I could do. And I reached out to all of the local small businesses. And then, so my first business of service was started. And having moved from, you know, my position in Melbourne, I was an account manager and I was traveling around the world to, you know, Southeast Asia and to Europe, visiting fairs and all that kind of stuff. I had $1 million customers within that business. I was one of their most senior salespeople, even though I was only in my, you know, kind of early to mid 20s. But when I moved up here, I was like, I'll do anything. Like I just had to get things moving. And so the first job that I took on within that business of service, which was all about supporting people with their business and marketing, first job I took on was $25 an hour, and it was data entry as a contract. So from there, I really built that up to, you know, kind of 50 an hour, 75 an hour, 100 an hour, so on and so forth, and built that business to the point where I had 5 people working with me. I was having 5-figure months. But again, I had just perpetuated this kind of masculine way of working, in that I was working nights, I was working weekends at the detriment of myself, my well-being, and my relationships. So I I got to the point where I think you know, Marie Forleo's B School. I'm sure you've heard of that. No. So Marie Forleo, an entrepreneur, she's in New York, and she has a business school called B School. And
I heard you. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I did that back in 2013, I think it was, and took my business through that. And it's all about creating a business and a life that you love. And what I realized through that process was that I didn't actually want to grow the business that I had, because I wasn't actually feeling inspired by it. So what that kind of exploration helped me to do was to understand that I actually wanted to put down that business. So I took on some part-time work with one of my clients that they were seeking at that time, and I dissolved that business, really giving myself the permission and the time and the space to see what it was that wanted to come through outside of that, beyond that, you know, what else was there if that wasn't it. And within probably about 6 months, I started to get, you know, all of this kind of information coming through while I was meditating. And I was like, whoa, this is, you know, I felt like I was writing chapters for a book. And so I got a writing program on my computer, and I started kind of, you know, downloading and writing out all of this information that was coming through. And for whatever reason, I didn't actually feel the inspiration to go through and finish writing a book at that stage. I was getting impatient, so I just started sharing this information online. I was like, I just want to start sharing. I just want to start expressing myself and sharing this information, and, you know, so on and so forth. So my second business, Make Space, Allow Grace, was born. And that was all about really sharing, you know, I guess the aspects that I was learning in terms of rediscovering the feminine and my own personal development, and all of those kinds of things. And Make Space, Allow Grace, while Of Service had been really swinging the pendulum on the masculine side, Make Space, Allow Grace was really swinging the pendulum on the feminine side. So I was very much in my feminine and in the energy. And that business was all about supporting women to connect to their inner wisdom, and to connect to their inner calm and their inner clarity and all these kinds of things. And what I kind of discovered through that process is that a strong belief that I have is that when we are deeply connected to ourselves and our inner knowing, for each of us there is something that wants to be expressed, like through our energetic signature. There's something to be expressed in this world, whether that's through a business or a movement or a creative project or a cause, you know, whatever it is, there's something to be brought through. And what I recognized is that once women had come through this process of Make Space, Allow Grace, they were then in a position where they could use the support of the skills that I had in my first business Of Service to be able to actually get that, if it was a business, to get that off the ground. So things kind of evolved really naturally in that way. And equally what I saw was that while I'd been very successful in Of Service in terms of material things, so, you know, the financial and the clients, I was very much in my masculine, so I wasn't enjoying it as much. And then in Make Space, I was loving the experience, but I wasn't seeing the success that I wanted because I wasn't using the strategic know-how that I had. I kind of turned my back on that and just went, oh, I'm just going to go into the energy kind of thing. And so with all of that kind of wisdom and experience, where I ended up a couple of years ago is that about 5 a.m. in the morning, and, you know, I tend to get these, you know, words or concepts or names kind of just drop in, and I don't necessarily know what they are yet, but, you know, it's something that kind of unfurls over time. And so the name Women of Impact dropped in, and I was like, whoa, that feels really potent and powerful. I don't know what that is yet, but it's there, and I'm open to finding out what that is. And so I think it probably took me about 2 or 3 months realistically to embody the energy of Women of Impact and to become the woman, and I'm still becoming the woman that I need to be in order to deliver this work. That's an evolution, right? But to become the woman who I needed to be to start delivering that work and to start that process. So then Women of Impact was born, and that is really this kind of very much process of personal development of women owning their worth. That is like the underlying factor that I see that is crucial to women stepping into their power and the value of their sacred work. And yeah, so that, I guess, is, you know, kind of my journey in a quite a large nutshell.
I love that. I'm so many amazing things that you touched on there. I think I certainly agree with you that women, we are creators. And if we don't have an outlet to express that, ultimately it becomes problematic, right? And so now in this current phase of your business, when women come to you, are they aware on some level that they have, as you call it, soul work, or do you have a process to get them to that sort of mindset?
Yeah, so most of the women that come to work with me, like if they invest to work with me, then they know that there's something that they want to do. Like for a lot of women, some women who are coming to work with me are pivoting. So they might be working in corporate, or they might have been in a certain role for a number of years, but they feel like there's something else that's possible for them. So they're looking to explore what that might look like. For other women, this is their life's work, right? They've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years already. And it's just, they haven't been clear yet about how they want to package it because often what I find with women is that we have so many passions, right? We have so many passions, we have so many skills that it could kind of be overwhelming for women to be able to go, how do I bring it all together? Like, how do I bring it all together in something that I can offer, rather than offering all of these different things, which diffuses our energy, both in what we're offering, but also in the way that it's received by our clients out in the field, in the marketplace, wherever. So, there is such beauty and power and simplicity in women being able to get really clear on, first of all, one thing that they can offer, like one high-end, high-service, high-value offering that speaks directly to those that they want to serve, that brings together all of their skills, talents, and abilities into this transformational offering, this transformational process that they are best positioned to facilitate for that client that they want to serve. So in answer to your question, yes, there is a process. There is a process, because whether women are at that starting point or whether they are, all the way through, there's still this lack of clarity, right? So there's still this clarification process that needs to take place. And that's the foundational essence of our work, which is in identifying that zone of divinity. And that comes from really diving deep into the woman, who she is, or what, like we spoke about, all of her skills, talents, and abilities, her education, her energy, her experience, as well as her with her experience, like her life story. So there's so many clues that are in our life stories as to who it is that we deeply want to serve, as to what it is, what our magic is that we're here to bring forward, in what our gifts are. Because, I know personally, if I reflect on, my greatest gifts that I have to offer now, they have largely come from the challenges that I've experienced in my life and the things that I've been able to overcome. They're gifts that have come through that transformative process for me. So it's a really powerful part of the process. And then also, obviously diving into those beautiful clients, those soulmate clients, to discovering, what that zone of divinity is, what that transformation that they're best positioned to facilitate. So that is the foundational aspect of the work from which everything else is built.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common for women, like when we learn to flip the narrative from sort of a victim mentality of things that we've overcome to look at it as something that can empower us, and like a deep learning lesson, and can really propel us in a different direction, a better direction. So what are some of the practices or techniques that like you personally maybe use, or that you use your clients to help women tune in to have like a deeper sense of what their magic is?
So I think one to begin with, it can be much easier to get that information from outside than inside. So one of the invitations that I make to my clients is to connect in with, some of their beloved friends and family members, and to seek out from them what they see as, like 3 to 5 of their, top gifts or, really special powers. Like, what is it that's unique and different about them? And one of the things that they notice is the commonalities, when all of these things come back, but there are these commonalities, and you're like, wow, that's really a thing that a lot of people recognize about me, that I may not have recognized myself. So that's something that's really powerful. But in terms of them being able to see it, going into that internal exploration, like that exploration process that we begin with is is very deep, and it can it's very healing process as well. Like a lot can come up through that exploration, and especially through the diving into our story. Because what I find is, and this is kind of obvious, kind of goes without saying, that, things can happen through our lives that we're like, oh, that didn't feel good. But we're like, oh, I don't really want it. I don't want to see that, and I don't want anyone else to see that. So I'm kind of going to push that down. I'm going to put some other things on top of that, going to resist that. And the thing is that whatever we're resisting, whatever we're trying to, like, A, not see ourselves, but B, sure as shit, not let anyone else see, our energy is going towards resisting that and towards hiding that. And, that's one of the aspects of, or one of the purposes really of this work, is being able to free that up. So being able to identify it ourselves, to look at it ourselves first, and to get to a point of comfort with it and understanding and healing around it, so that we are then able to, we don't have to share everything with the world, but when we are no longer in a space of resistance, then our energy is free to actually be brought forward in whatever it is that we're bringing to the world, rather than having it diffused and like, oh, I've got some energy to bring forward here, but I'm still spending a lot of energy trying to resist all this stuff that I really don't want anyone to find out about. So that's something that I find really powerful as well, is going through that process and being able to free up some of our energy, some more of our energy, so that the more that we can bring forward, the more fully we can bring our energy forward in our expression, in what it is that we're sharing, in our sacred work, the more powerfully it can be received by those who we really want to serve.
Wow, that's really powerful and so true. I mean, I personally, the way that you worded that, many things came up that I, over the years, had been resisting. For me, a lot of clarity has come just this month. In fact, it'll be 3 years that I'm sober, and there's a long history. We won't get into it, but most of my listeners know it. But so many narratives of, what it is to be a good wife or a good mother or a good daughter, or that we have. And therefore there's all these things that we're just not addressing, or, like you suggest, literally hiding from ourselves. But yeah, it's a process of going through all that. So what, besides you shared with us sort of I'm guessing the procession of going from corporate to where you are now, that was like a series of steps for you personally to realize what you were not addressing. Is there something else that surprised you over the years that has come forward that you've been maintaining, like your energy, or wasting your energy maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hide?
Yeah. So one of the big ones, and I think this is one of my life learnings and still continuously a journey for me of evolution, is having really kind of I think kind of had a split from source and like from source energy, and from really being shut down in my emotions when I was a child. So when I was about 6, I experienced bullying at school for being overweight. I got humiliated by a teacher when I was sharing a creative project, and, you know, like this perfect storm at this age, made fun of because of my name, Prue, dense meaning thick, but I didn't know what it meant. So it kind of it was like a double whammy of when I found out what it meant, and I was like, oh, and that makes sense now, because so it was like this perfect storm that happened for me, that had just had this magical, you know, young girl go, oh, you know, like, I'm not out here and my spirit is not, you know, expansive. I've got to come into this 3D physical world, but also, you know, just totally shut down from my emotions, from my feeling, and really came into this space of being really quite dampened and what's the word, like numb, emotionally numb. So for me, my journey has so much been about being able to come to a place of feeling my emotions again, and then actually being able to articulate what is going on for me, feeling free to speak, feeling safe to be seen and heard, and held by someone else, you know, like all of these kinds of things. And I think that has contributed to one of my kind of gifts. What we were talking about before is, you know, the gift that I see from all that is that I am incredibly accepting and very inclusive as well. So I kind of, you know, my arms are open, my energy is open to receiving and holding others in all of who they are, exactly as they are. And I think that is, you know, that is a gift that has come out of that less shiny, happy, awesome kind of experience. And, you know, it takes obviously time and attention to be able to see those gifts and to reframe and things like that. But yeah, that's a big one of them. But even I was saying to some of the girls in my program, as a part of my program, we have a monthly women's circle. So we had that yesterday. And I was sharing in that even like at the start of this week, I had been, all of these like little kind of sneaky distractions had been weaving their way back into my life. Things that just take, you know, little bits of time and energy and space away from me being able to be the fullest expression of who I am. And it got to this last weekend, and there was some kind of, I don't know why, but for some reason, well, there were a few different things that all culminated, and for some reason it got to Monday morning and I was like, that's it, I'm done. And so there were these apps that I deleted from my phone and just changed these habits and was like, this is it, you know, And so, you know, even still now, you know, I'm not perfect. Like I see that there are kind of in everything that we do in life and in all of the growth, there's kind of two aspects that I see to it. And one is this like overall sense of growth that we do, and we're kind of shifting our default level in relation to whatever that thing is. And then there's like the daily awareness and practice that supports that kind of thing. So, you know, I am definitely not perfect. I am evolving just like every other human on the planet. And that's okay too. You know, that's okay too. We're all in this together, and we're all moving forward perfectly and imperfectly at once. So yes, so there were some things as well that I recognized at the start of this week that I was like, oh, my energy has been sucked by some of these things, and I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that for most people, you know, the awareness of what they need to be focusing on or focusing on less is like a huge piece. And then it's not a quick fix. It's a daily practice. Like, what's the actionable step that we're doing to sort of do that? the housework there. So how can you tell us a little bit about like what's the thought process that you have when you, or what does it energetically feel like when you now know it's like, okay, no, I'm not using my time or my energy wisely, or like that you feel like it needs to be redirected, or you need to take some dramatic action or semi-dramatic action like deleting apps. What is the energetic point where you're like, no, because I'm sure it's a lot different, the energetic point now than it was, 10 years ago.
Yeah, good question. So if I look back to kind of the weekend, then it was like that experience of, allowing those little niggles in, energetically to me feels like, so anything for me, I'm a feeler more than a thinker. So for me, I feel my way through decisions. Everything is kind of about feeling, but, so for me, things that don't feel good feel like a constriction, and things that feel good feel like an expansion. So for me, each one of those, and why I say they were sneaky is because each one's just little, right? So it just adds a little something and a little something and a little something. It's almost like you have to wait until you've got enough of them to go, whoa, this is a big difference than how I'm used to feeling. Like there's more discord and there's more constriction here than I am willing to have in my experience. Like it gets to pussy's bow kind of thing, to breaking point where it's like, no, that's enough. I'm done. So that was kind of my experience. I think realistically I'm much more sensitive to that now than I might have been. So where I could have gone years living in that experience before, now, it will be, I might be there for a month and go, whoa, why am I so tired? And, and then kind of be like, oh, I don't want to live tired. I know what it feels like to live vibrantly and alive and being divinely, having such a clear channel that I have incredible visions when I close my eyes. I want that again. And it's not worth it to me to keep engaging in this behavior that is not supporting my kind of greatest alignment and my greatest sense of clarity.
Love that. Can you share with us a couple little practices that you personally love to maintain your clarity and help you feel aligned? Do you meditate, for example, or?
Not a great meditator. Well, so here's the thing. When I say I'm not a great meditator, I don't do it all the time. Like I don't have a strict routine practice. Having said that, I can just go into meditation and download things when I want to. So it's effective meditation, even though it's not like a strict routine. For me, my greatest love is nature. So I, like just lying on the grass, going to the beach, anything really, staring at the clouds. Another perfect thing for me is play. So I'm really playful. We've got a little puppy. I can, when you're a kid and you just lie on the ground or you'd lie on the lounge with your legs up and stuff like that. So I can literally, and I was actually going to do it before we chatted, but I forgot. I can literally lie on the ground for a minute and just feel this sense of playfulness. Like there's something about being in that position of the kind of worm's eye view that has this whole perspective shift for me. So there are a couple of the things that are like immediate kind of game changers for me. Allowing myself to be in that sense of play, which can be as simple as, 30 seconds lying on my back on the ground and, or, going and lying on the grass or walking around or just appreciating a leaf or something like that. It's just, yeah, they're immediate and they're pure and they're just beautiful for me.
Excellent. I love those answers. They're so unique, I feel like intuitive and kind of obvious, but at the same time, not something
simple, right?
No, simple. Not something most adults think to tap into, right? Like, and not a lot of time necessarily, even, right? Yeah.
Doesn't have to take a long time. Doesn't have to be hard.
So where can the listeners find you most easily? Where do you like to spend your time on social media, or maybe not at all on social media?
So I am on Instagram at womenofimpact.global. I'm on Facebook. My business page is called Women of Impact.
I'll share all the links that you sent.
I think it's just Women of Impact, not global. And I have a Facebook group called CEO Priestess Activation, but I am at the end of April 2021, I am going to be hosting a 7-day free online retreat called the Evolve Method Retreat, which is all about supporting women to launch and scale their transformational soul work. So if anyone is listening that would like to come and, be a part of that would like to come and play and be in the feminine and, connect with other like-minded, like-hearted women, then I'd love to invite anyone who feels to come and join us in that.
Amazing. I love that. And I love that. It's an acronym, isn't it? The Evolve?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I might just be there too, because I love your energy and you've got such a unique perspective. So I'd like to be around that more.
Oh, I'd love to have you.
Thank you so much, Prue, for agreeing to be interviewed and for spending your time with us today. Is there anything else you wanted to leave us with? Any last advice or words to women that are maybe where you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's specific to women who are maybe where I was 10 years ago. The thing that's coming through for me to share is around this opportunity that we have to, and this is kind of, I guess a reflection of that shift, the shift that I took anyway from being more heavily in, I'm going to say like, the wounded masculine aspects, and then coming into more balance between the mature feminine or the healed feminine and masculine aspects, is this shift into service. So when in my business now, everything pretty much comes down to service. So when I'm marketing, it's service. When I'm selling, it's service. Everything is service. And when we come from that place, it feels really good, especially as women. Like we are here to be of service. Like this is so natural for us. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we don't deserve to be divinely compensated for what we do. So when we have this underlying experience of worthiness, and we also really deeply understand the value of the transformation that we're here to facilitate for others, then we can come from service and we can also be divinely compensated. So it's this really beautiful kind of cycle of service and receiving and service and receiving. And so I guess if I was going to leave anyone that's listening with anything, it would be this kind of concept of what's possible in terms of this virtuous cycle of service and receiving.
Awesome. Perfect place to leave it off. Thanks again, Prue, and we'll be in touch.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Megan.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.